Greetings metal community, it's Roger back with another video. I'm gonna respond to MetalMickey's 25 best albums ever. This is of course, I could have pulled out 25 death metal albums and made that my list, but I tried to vary it up a little bit. This is albums that I absolutely love and would gladly take them to my grave. And I can start with the CDs just to... Where did I put that cover? Well, in the background we are listening to, of course, Rotten Christ. The Mighty Contract should easily be on this list, but it isn't. But I play it in the background, so I cheated a little bit, make it 26. Start off with a Norwegian punk rock band called Raga Rockers, Forbudte Følelser. They are, lyrics are in Norwegian. This is, a band that kind of rose out from the punk scene, and it's more rock, but it has those punk elements. Great album, great lyrics, very fun way to write the lyrics. An excellent album. Came out in I think '87. I've been listening to that a ton of times. Then we are going to one of my favorite thrash metal bands of all times, and in this list I needed to have some Testament, and Legacy, one of their absolute best albums, if not their best album. Just a must-have for a thrash fan, I think. And Testament is one of my top 3 thrash bands of all time, so need to have that one in my list. As I said, I had to pick from all different styles because I do have a lot of different things to pick out. So one of my absolute favorite death doom bands are Saturnus from Denmark. This is Paradise Belongs to You. Just a absolutely beautiful, sorrowful album. Great vocals. Everything is great about this. I mean, this album has, it brings out the right feelings for this type of music, and I absolutely love this album. And they have a lot of great releases, but this was the first and still my favorite with them. Then we are going a little bit slower, and I had to have Awoken in this list. I mean, Antithesis of Light is my favorite album by Awoken. Funeral doom, death, just a killer release. I mean, all of this will be killer release, I don't have to say that, but this is my favorite by Awoken, and Awoken is a band that have to have in that list. And another band that plays slows that everybody knows, My Dying Bride, As the Flowers Withers, just absolute killer stuff. Love this album. This is the original CD from back in the good old days, and it is still my favorite My Dying Bride album, but they have a good bunch of solid and great releases. The rest of the stuff is vinyl, and I had to have this Sabbath Dreamweaver. I could have chosen the one that Mikey choose, but I would change it up a little bit. I like this because it's darker, it's kind of more evil sounding, and I love both the first 2 Sabbath albums, but I could have easily picked History as well, but I went for Dreamweaver. Just a killer album. The next one is one of my favorite Swedish death metal releases, and you think Entombed? No, it's not Entombed. It's Seance with For Never Laid to Rest. This album is just fucking brilliant, brutal, technical. Yeah, a masterpiece. I think it came out in early 90s. I don't remember exactly when, 91, 92 maybe. I could have picked Salter of Dice, their second album as well, but this is slightly better, and I must have for me on a list like this. Then another of my 3 top thrash metal bands, and that's Overkill. I went for Taking Over, just because this was my first Overkill, and I love every song here. It's just a killer album, killer thrash, beautiful cover, and yeah. You all know this album, so I'm not gonna talk so very much about it. Creator is the third of my top 3 thrash metal bands of all time. I was kind of Extreme Aggression maybe, but you know, Terrible 30, excellent stuff. This is the reissued double vinyl. I've shown this before, you know, with the EP attached to it. Into the Light and Out of the Dark into the Light EP. So you get a bonus. But yeah, Creator, fantastic. The early stuff, great. And I also like the newer Creator very much. So, killer band. Another, I had to have this band in on my list because Metal Church is a band that I have listened to a ton of times. I was kind of thinking about doing the debut album, you know, the Metal Church self-titled, because that has kind of taken over the place the last 5 years. But Blessing in the Sky, their darkest, heaviest album, great songs, great vocals by the late Mike Howe, just a killer album. Power thrash is kind of the right description for this. I always regarded the early Metal Church as more as a thrash band, but you know, we didn't care so much about what to label them as back in the days. My favorite death metal band is Immolation. I went with Atonement. I could have picked some else, but this album was just a, you know, I didn't expect them to release one of the best pieces when they did back in 17. This just blew me away. Absolute killer album. And you know, I could have picked, there's 3 or 4 other albums that with Immolation that are, you know, just as good, but it's good to have something new on the list because there's a lot of old stuff going on. Didn't pick much new stuff, could have done it, but it wasn't room in the list for too much stuff. Another one that I absolutely love, Gua, Exercises in Futility. This is just killer black metal. The drum work on this album is just outstanding. The way he used the cymbals are just mind-blowing. And if you haven't heard Gua, just check him out because they are. I think a lot of people that are not into black metal can like this because it's not like so much ultra fast primitive. It's just very well intelligent black metal, I would say. And I will never go on any best of list without Napalm Death's Utopia Banished. This album is just absolute fantastic. My favorite Napalm Death record will always be that. I think I couldn't go without this. Killer stuff. I think I'm gonna use killer on everybody, even though I didn't say it. Another of my Swedish favorite death metal releases, and again, now it's not Entombed. It's Necrophobic with Nocturnal Silence. Love this album. Has a great feeling to it. I played this album so many times. I played this more than Left Hand Path and Clandestine together, so of course it should be on the list. And a dying classic for me. I just have to have it. And also another group that I was kind of torn which album. I was thinking about Blood Ritual, but I went with Samuel's Ceremony of Opposites. Excellent black metal. I think everybody knows Samuel, or should. Blood Ritual could have been it because that's even more kind of unique when it came out, but nothing sounds like Samuel, and yeah, killer. Then we of course have to have some Norwegian black metal, and my favorite Norwegian black metal release ever is Kvist for evig må kunsten vike. Nei, for kunsten må vi evig vike. Yeah, got that backwards as I always do. For kunsten må vi evig vike. That's fantastic. The feeling on this album is just phenomenal. Great vocals, angry, pretty heavy sound in a way on it, and another killer. Then I went with, I could have picked a lot of other thrash albums, but I always have a great love for this Dark Angel of Time Does Not Heal. A lot of people criticizes the vocals on this, but I think the vocals fit the album perfectly. Love this album as well, you know, played it a ton of times, and deserve a place in the list as everybody else. But I could have shown 100 albums easily. I had to, you know, start with something, you know. Then we have The First Enslaved. Have to have this as well. I had to have Enslaved on the list because they are one of my favorite Norwegian bands. And this is the reissue, great reissue. Fantastic, yeah, kind of, they have a great atmosphere, and the synth they use here are pretty subtle. It's not like, it's just a carpet behind everything, and love the cover as well. And I probably could have picked 25 Norwegian releases as well in this, when it comes to black metal and stuff like that. Have to have Bolt Thrower. Went with War Master. Could have picked, yeah, anyone. But you know, Send It Up is on this album, and yeah, need to have Send It Up in your life. Excellent stuff. And maybe we should do a video like 25 best releases from your own country. Just, you know. Then we have Abyssal with Antikatastasis. This is a new, pretty new 2015 release. This is doomy, dirty, murky, excellent death, black and death doom, whatever you want to call this. It's just pulling you under, and this cover is just absolute fantastic. Great songs, a lot of hidden path of the guitar in here, so you don't get the album the first couple of spins, but it just pops up new stuff all the time when you listen to it. So Abyssal, had to have this, and the only kind of new group in a way. Then you have to have some heavy metal as well, you know, and Accept, Metal Heart. Could have picked Balls to the Walls, could have picked Russian Roulette, but I think this is their best album, and I love everything about it. Yeah, Metal Heart, Midnight Mover, Up to the Limit, Screaming for Living for Tonight. I mean, just killer stuff. Again, killer. And you know, Accept had to be on that list because back in the 80s, Accept was a pretty big deal. For me at least. Then I went with this one, and I don't think a lot of people will show this, but it's Aeternus, Norwegian band, Beyond the Wandering Moon. One of the first, I would say, black and death metal releases. Just a killer album, and you know, the guitar tone and everything is just have this atmospheric, not atmospheric, but it has an atmosphere over this that just makes this album stand out. But I've kind of, the second album was pretty good as well, but you know, the first EP and this album is just absolute Norwegian classic. And yeah, I had to add this. I have kind of not rediscovered it, but I listened a lot to it a couple of last years, and yeah, you never go tired of it. And I also had to add Autopsy, Mental Funeral. I mean, I love this album. It's so dirty and kind of an album that's opened my ears up a little bit more for the dirty stuff that, you know, it didn't have to be clean, precise to be great. But this album is just killer. Again, I don't know why. Maybe I should do a contest with the clicking on how many times I say killer in this video, but then probably this will be on at least top 5 death metal albums of all time, and that's Atheist, Piece of Time. I just love this album. It was so unique when it came out, so technical and just fantastic. It didn't sound like the other bands that I was listening to, and they just grabbed hold of me, and I absolutely love this album. I played this to death, so I need to get me a new copy of it, because yeah, it starts to crack a little bit. I played this hundreds of times, so but yeah, and I will end off with my favorite album, and this is my favorite album. This will be on any list ever on the top, and that's Sanctuary, Refugee Denied. The Refuge Denied. I always say Refugee Denied, but it's Refuge Denied, and killer vocals, killer riffs, killer production on it, just absolute fantastic. It's a yeah, 11 out of 10 album for me. Play this to... I should be sick tired of this, but I'm not. Never gonna be. And yeah, everything is great. Even the cover is excellent, and the colors. And another vocalist that passed away way too soon. So yeah, that was my hopefully 25. Didn't want to speak so much about the albums because most of it's very known, so I don't want to make too long videos. I've done a couple of those lately, and I'm not happy with that. So yeah, 90 minutes. Thank you for watching. Be sure.